I moved in with my dad when I was 10, and I didn't know anyone in the area except for this family my dad was friends with. It was a single mom with 3 kids, and luckily there was a girl a couple of years older than me. She was 12 when I met her. Over the next couple of years, we got to know each other a little. We weren't super close, but we ended up sharing the same friends. One night, my friend Rob was hanging out with her and her younger brother. They were home alone because their mom was at work. Their mom had been helping this one lady through her job and got to know her pretty well. She found out that the lady's sister had just been released from a mental institution. That night, while Rob was there, they heard a knock on the door. My friend thought it was their mom. She had a specific way of knocking when she came home, so he answered without thinking twice. Rob wasn't supposed to be there, so he bolted out the window and ran to his house down the road. He didn't think much of it at the time. But it wasn't her mom. It was the sister of the lady her mom was helping. Somehow, she'd figured out from talking to her sister where the family lived and what her mom's work schedule was. She came inside. This is where I don't know the full details, and I'm glad I don't, but it was horrific. The younger brother managed to get away and run to the neighbor's house to call the police. The woman, Delaney, brutally murdered my friend. It was just a week before Christmas. She decapitated her and left her body naked in the bathtub. She even hid her head. They had to search through the presents to find it, but they did eventually. I wasn't allowed to go to her funeral. It's something that still haunts me to this day.
This happened to my wife's grandmother about 15 years ago, back when my wife and I were still dating. Her husband had passed away about a year earlier, but she'd been staying active by volunteering at the local library. It helped with exercise and socialization. This was in the winter, so her walk back home was during the early dark hours. The library closed at 5 p.m., and there was usually some extra stuff to do before everyone left. On this particular night, she turned down a ride from another volunteer because she wanted to stay in shape. Her house was about a mile away, through a lightly wooded area in South Texas. As she was about halfway home, she noticed someone behind her. He was walking in the same direction and gaining on her. That in itself wasn't too alarming. She was older and not very fast, but something about him felt vaguely sinister. They kept walking, and pretty soon he was right behind her. Then he fell into pace, just staying directly behind her. Now she knew something was up, but she was almost home. She could see the top of her driveway coming up, and she left her lights on so it would look like someone was there when she walked in. She just needed to make it another 150 yards or so. All that time, she said he was so close that she could feel his breath on her neck. Around maybe 50 yards from home, it happened. A strong hand grabbed her shoulder. "Okay, don't turn around and hand over your purse or I'll cut you." She stopped for a second, then took one big step forward, turned around, and shot the guy in the neck with the .38 revolver she kept in her purse. The guy spent the next 5 years in a prison hospital before he died of complications. My wife's grandmother passed away last year, but up until the end, she lamented that she had pulled the trigger too soon. She wished she'd waited a bit longer to make sure. When I was young, maybe 8 to 11 years old, my sister, who's 7 years older, would babysit me when my parents were out. At the time, she smoked a lot, and my parents made her smoke outside. I'd follow her out, play around, annoy her, that sort of thing. One day, my sister noticed a car at the end of our driveway, just sitting in the road. It was a white SUV with a bike rack on top and the most tinted windows I'd ever seen. You couldn't see inside at all. It sat there until she went inside, then it would drive to the end of the road and park in the church lot, waiting. As soon as she'd come out for another smoke, it would come back and repeat the process. It was odd, but my sister is a brave person and mostly ignored it. That is, until the next day when my parents were out again, and it showed up once more. It would sit at the end of the driveway and just watch. I don't know what the driver was doing, but they were definitely watching my sister. I know because if I didn't go out with her, I'd watch from the front window. She told my father, who was a sheriff's deputy at the time. He called the cops and filed a complaint. They showed up and looked around, but the SUV was nowhere to be seen. Months went by with nothing. Then, about 9 months after it all started, and 4 months since the last sighting, it was back. It became a regular occurrence again. One day, my sister was outside smoking, and sure enough, here it comes. This time, we were home alone as usual, and she decided she'd had enough. She told me to stay in the carport, and she was going to confront them. She started walking toward the SUV, but halfway down the driveway, she later told us, she felt this terror, like she knew if she went any further, she was dead. She was paralyzed by pure fear. She turned around and went back inside. Finally, one night when the family car was in the shop, we were all stuck home. My parents were there, my sister went outside to smoke, and I went with her. Eventually, the SUV showed up. She told me to run inside and tell my father. I did. My dad promptly grabbed his gun and started briskly walking down the driveway with it in hand, but not pointed at them. The SUV floored it down the road and peeled out onto the nearby highway. My dad, being a cop, noted the year, model, and distinguishing features. The scariest part, the license plate had been covered in duct tape. We never saw it again.
I was just 4 or 5 years old, and my parents had recently separated. My mom was living in a 2-bedroom apartment. I had my own room, but I preferred sleeping in her bed whenever I stayed with her. Our 2 bedrooms were at the end of a hallway, directly across from each other. The apartment was on the 1st floor, and I remember it was the middle of summer. My mom had a window open in her room, right behind the bed, above the headboard. I woke up in the middle of the night and sat up. I saw our cat sitting in the doorframe of my mom's room. Her door was open, and from there you could partially see into my bedroom. This was strange because the cat usually slept in bed with us. As I watched, the cat walked into my bedroom and meowed. I turned to my mom and woke her up. In the 3 or 4 seconds it took her to wake and ask what was wrong, we both looked back at the doorframe, and there was a man standing by my open bedroom door, making his way out. I still don't know how she did it so quickly, but my mom picked me up and literally threw me out the screen window. She followed right after, and we started screaming for help. Someone nearby called 911. The police came but didn't find any signs of forced entry, only that our front door was unlocked, which led them to believe the man had exited that way. The strange thing was that my mom swore she'd locked the door that night with the deadbolt and chain lock. About a week later, she was cleaning the kitchen and opened the water heater closet. Inside, she found a notebook with names and drawings, a pair of gloves, and some gum wrappers. The police were called again, but all they could do was speculate that the man had been in our house, hiding until we were asleep. One day, while doing my laundry, one of the lights blew out in my basement. My basement is set up so that the laundry room is split from the other side by a wall with a door. To get upstairs, you have to exit the laundry room and go through the other part of the basement. The light that blew was in the other part, not the laundry room, and it was the only light on that side, so it was pretty dark. I finished the laundry I had to do, dreading the walk through the dark basement. I exited the laundry room, got halfway through the basement, and suddenly heard a loud cackle right behind me. Imagine the sound people make when imitating a witch. Now imagine that witch had been smoking for 50 years, making her voice deeper and hoarser. That's what I heard, clear as day. I didn't hesitate. I bolted for the stairs. I waited until my father got home before I changed the bulb. I have yet to hear that cackle since, and I've never told a single person in the house about it.